Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive. You're here because you want to get your head around the big global issues without getting bogged down, and that's exactly what we aim to do. Today, we're diving into something fascinating: the United Kingdom's intelligence community. We'll look at its crucial position right now, globally speaking, especially how it navigates those, well, vital relationships with the US and China.
It's a really critical time to be looking at this. What these agencies do, it shapes so much, often completely behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And to really help us unpack it all, we're delighted to have Professor Richard Halston back with us. Professor Halston offers such a rare perspective, having been a senior liaison officer for British intelligence over in Washington. And he's currently a professor of international security at King's College London. Great to have you with us again.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to dig into these important areas.
So, our mission today, it's pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the key insights for you. We're talking about the UK's intelligence setup, its history, those essential partnerships, and of course, the big challenges it's facing as the world keeps shifting. We want to make it clear, engaging, and, well, really valuable for you. So, Professor, let's start right at the beginning. The foundations, MI5, MI6, GCHQ, they have this almost legendary reputation for effectiveness, don't they? Where does that really come from?
Well, their origins, they go back to the early 20th century. MI6, for instance, that was set up in 1909. The main reason then was keeping an eye on Imperial Germany. Then over the following decades, especially during the Cold War pressures,
Right.
the UK established a pretty significant role in the intelligence world. And interestingly, it wasn't really about sheer size. It was more a cultivated reputation for a high degree of skill and a certain operational finesse.
Finesse, that's a word you hear a lot with UK intelligence. What does that actually mean in practice? How does that look on the ground?
It often means, well, a focus on subtlety, on building deep, long-lasting human connections, and really excelling at human intelligence. Human T, as it's called, cultivating sources, gathering those crucial insights directly.
So a preference for the nuanced long game approach.
Exactly, thinking long term. And of course, you can't really talk about the foundations without mentioning the special relationship with the United States, is a famous phrase. But just how deep does that connection go in the intelligence sphere?
Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely fundamental. Really, it is. The UK and the US, they formed the core of the Five Eyes alliance.
With Canada, Australia, New Zealand too.
Precisely. And this intelligence sharing partnership, its roots are back in World War II, solidified by the Atlantic Charter Principles. It's a collaboration that's just, well, intensified and adapted over all these years.
And you mentioned skills. Where does the UK particularly excel within that partnership?
Well, it's crucial to recognize the UK's particular strength in signals intelligence. SIGINT.
Yeah.
GCHQ is genuinely a technical powerhouse, a leading cyber force. It makes truly indispensable contributions to the Five Eyes Alliance. Their decryption expertise, for example, historically provided unique insights.
Insights that even larger agencies benefited from.
Yes, exactly. Unique perspectives.
Okay, so this combination of sort of historical depth and that incredibly close U.S. relationship seems key. How would you describe the UK-U.S. intelligence relationship right now? Is it still that absolute cornerstone?
It definitely remains a cornerstone, yes. And I'd probably describe it as symbiotic, truly symbiotic.
Symbiotic, how so?
Well, while the U.S. brings, immense resources, that global reach, the UK often offers a level of agility, maybe a more nuanced understanding, especially in complex or less permissive environments.
Right.
Think about situations where you need discrete, long-term cultivation of sources in a really sensitive region. That's often where the UK's historical strength can really complement the U.S.'s broader tech capabilities.
That's a great way to think about it, complementary strengths. So how does that actually work in specific areas, like, say, cyber surveillance? That must be huge now.
Oh, absolutely. In cyberspace, the integration level is, well, it's quite extraordinary, really. The link up between GCHQ and the NSA, the U.S. National Security Agency, it's often described as practically seamless. A seamless exchange.
Seamless, wow.
Yeah. They share threat intelligence almost in real time. They work together on new tech coordinate responses to cyber incidents, particularly things like counterterrorism and defending against those really sophisticated state-backed cyber attacks. It's a deeply interwoven picture.
It sounds incredibly close-knit, but, I mean, in any big partnership like that, surely there are times when views differ or priorities clash. Have there been bumps in the road for the UK-US intelligence relationship?
Yes, inevitably,
Yeah.
of course. History shows examples. If
Mhm.
you look back at the lead up to the Iraq War, there were clearly different assessments, different approaches there.
Mhm.
And maybe more recently, the initial responses to Huawei emerging as a global tech player, that highlighted some different strategic thinking. The UK initially looked at perhaps a slightly more accommodating stance than the US was comfortable with.
Right, I remember that debate.
But the crucial thing, I think, is that despite these, occasional disagreements,
Yeah.
the fundamental intelligence cooperation itself has proven remarkably resilient. It endures.
Why is that?
Well, the shared strategic goals, the sheer depth of the personal relationships built up over years within the agencies, they tend to make sure these differences get managed. They don't sort of derail the whole partnership.
That resilience itself is a key point then. Okay, let's shift focus a bit. In 2023, we heard top UK intelligence figures call China an epoch-defining challenge.
Yeah.
It's incredibly strong language. What's really driving that assessment?
It is a profound language, absolutely. And it reflects, a fundamental rethink of the global strategic picture. The challenge from China, it isn't primarily seen as traditional military confrontation, though obviously that's a factor in wider geopolitics.
Hmm.
Instead, it's perceived as a much broader, far-reaching challenge. It's about strategic influence across really a whole host of connected areas.
Like what kind of areas?
China's methods are seen as diverse, sophisticated. They encompass the strategic use of technology, acquiring data on a massive scale, subtle economic influence, and these pervasive influence campaigns. And they target everything from universities and biotech companies to, the growing field of AI.
So it demands a really different intelligence approach compared to, say, Cold War spying.
Yes, fundamentally different. It's much less about classic espionage, although that still exists, of course. It's far more about understanding and, crucially, countering that subtle, long-term strategic influence.
Right.
It means protecting critical national infrastructure from potential weak spots, guarding valuable intellectual property, and making sure democratic processes are resilient against foreign interference.
So what has the UK's practical response been to this shift?
We've seen a definite strengthening of defensive counterintelligence work. That's a key focus now. Building resilience within those vital sectors, academia, critical infrastructure, key industries.
And legislation.
Yes, the National Security Act of 2023 was a really significant piece of legislation here. It brought in new legal tools to prosecute foreign interference and espionage activities, and perhaps most visibly, it set up the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme.
Ah, yes, the FIRS scheme to bring more transparency.
Exactly, to shed light on activities done inside the UK on behalf of foreign powers.
Okay, let's zero in on one of those critical domains you mentioned, cyberspace. It feels like it's just constantly contested now, doesn't it? How do UK intelligence agencies view cyberspace in this context?
You're absolutely spot on. Cyberspace is, without doubt, a crucial and intensely active battleground.
Hmm.
And its significance goes way beyond just stealing state secrets these days.
That's right.
Well, a major aspect now is the deliberate shaping of public opinion. Disinformation campaigns, for instance. They're designed to erode trust in democratic institutions, maybe amplify social divisions.
And the main actors there?
Both China and Russia are seen as highly capable and very active players in this space.
So for the UK, GCHQ is the main shield.
GCHQ acts as that vital national cyber shield, yes.
Yeah.
And the NCSC, the National Cybersecurity Center, which is part of GCHQ, they've really established themselves as a world-leading authority,
In what way?
providing guidance, implementing defensive measures. Their proactive threat analysis and public awareness work is particularly notable.
Does this intense focus on cyber change how the agencies operate domestically? Do they talk to different people now?
Absolutely. We're definitely seeing a convergence, a blurring of lines between what used to be seen as separate domestic security and foreign policy spheres. Intelligence agencies are now routinely engaging with a much, much wider range of stakeholders. It's not just government ministers anymore. It includes universities, businesses, large and small, even local government.
Why them?
Because the risks from espionage and foreign interference, they're no longer confined to just state-on-state stuff. It's not a Cold War relic. For a business, it could be protecting vital trade secrets. For academics, safeguarding research. Even for healthcare, securing sensitive patient data. It affects everyone.
It really brings it home how widespread the issue is. Now, inherent in all this intelligence work is this tension, isn't there, between secrecy and democratic openness. How does the UK try to manage that?
That's a critical point, yes.
Yeah.
There's always that inherent tension. The UK has mechanisms like the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament, the ISC, which provides oversight.
Mm.
But public awareness of how these mechanisms function is, well, arguably still quite limited.
Has public trust shifted at all over time?
There's evidence trust actually grew somewhat after major events like 9/11 and the 77 London bombings. People saw a clearer need, perhaps.
But with new tech, AI, advanced surveillance, is there a growing risk of overreach? That must be a concern.
It's a constant and critical question. The potential for overreach definitely grows with more powerful technologies. And there are really tricky ethical dilemmas, too. Like, how do you identify foreign influence activity without unfairly targeting specific communities?
Right, avoiding profiling.
Exactly. It requires ongoing, rigorous scrutiny from Parliament, from civil society, from the oversight bodies themselves. It's a continuous balancing act.
Looking ahead then, Professor, what do you see as the UK's future role on this global intelligence stage? Where can it make the biggest impact?
I think the UK is really well positioned to stay a critical player. Those long-standing relationships, especially with the US and also within Europe, give it the potential to act as a sort of vital bridge.
A bridge for sharing intelligence and coordinating.
Precisely, for collaboration. But looking forward, a key priority for the UK has to be establishing itself as a real leader in resilience
Resilience in what sense?
across the board, building inherently secure digital systems, uh, developing strong governance for AI, adopting quantum-safe encryption.
Quantum safe, wow. That's thinking ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also promoting international standards for cyber defense.
Yeah.
It's about building robustness systemically.
Uh-huh.
And I suspect we'll see intelligence capabilities become even more woven into public life, not less.
And finally, that huge, complex China question. What's the most effective path forward for the UK in navigating that?
It has to be engagement, I think, but engagement with what you might call clear eyes, realism.
Not decoupling entirely.
Complete disengagement, decoupling, it just doesn't seem practical or even desirable, given how interconnected the global economy is. It's probably unrealistic.
So engage, but be wary.
Yes. The focus needs to be squarely on building that national resilience we talk about, protecting critical sectors, infrastructure. And alongside that, prioritizing transparency in interactions and actively countering activities that are clearly malign influence. It's a balanced strategy. Engagement plus robust safeguards. That seems essential for the next decade.
Professor Halston, this has been incredibly insightful, a truly illuminating deep dive into this complex world. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We really hope this has given you a clearer picture of the UK's intelligence landscape, its history, that vital U.S. partnership, the complex China challenge, the huge role of cyber, and all the strategic thinking behind it. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. As intelligence gets more and more integrated into our societies, how do you think this changing landscape will shape our individual freedoms and the trust we place in our institutions in the years to come? Thank you for watching Westferry Times. Please do like and share this discussion if you found it valuable. And don't forget to subscribe to Westferry Times for more in-depth analysis like this. Until our next deep dive, goodbye.